contest is scheduled for one fall.
Well, BC, still think we're about cleaned up from the street fight at this point and ready to get back to action. Wasn't that just the feel-good moment of the year?
Of all the moments this year, that was one of them. Well, you know what? My Christmas is going to pick up here with who's on his way to the ring now.
Weighing in at 186 pounds, the heir apparent, Chris LeRusso.
I'm getting a little sick and tired of not being shown the proper respect. I should be handed a title in this, and I should be the first ever PCW champion. No matches, no tournament, just handed to the best wrestler. Me. And
Him?
instead, I am being told that I have to prove myself. I'm put in 4 corner matches. I'm put in these ridiculous circumstances. I don't have to prove a thing. I don't have to prove a thing to Joe Dombrowski. I don't have to prove a thing to PCW. And I don't have to prove a thing to any one of you. What you people need to do is realize you are in the presence of the heir apparent and show me the proper respect.
So Chris LeRusso's hungry for respect, and he feels like that this is all formality, and he's destined to be the first PCW champion, and he's destined to be in the main event of all these live events. But as the months go on, he gets more and more frustrated as he finds more and more that that's not necessarily the case. It's a difficult road to haul here.
And his opponent, from the 36 Chambers of Blue, weighing in at 315 pounds, the Suplex Shogun, Jackson Stone.
Suplex Shogun, obviously influenced by the Far East, as well as many powerful wrestlers here domestically. He is Jackson Stone, and this is his PCW debut. You heard Nick Lendl announce 315-pounder, and this guy is very, very tough to navigate, to say the least. He's a powerhouse. He's still young, but you see, he's one of those individuals that maybe like a Lewis Linden or a Facade that we've seen in prior times, kind of uses that Japanese... Man, it's that ferocious scream. It uses that Japanese mentality, that meditation, whatever the case may be, just to get himself in a frame of mind for battle. And it's almost like that combination of discipline, but also being able to do some big-time damage out there. And that combination, having that kind of self-control and center, is sometimes the difference between a guy like a Facade or a Jason Kincaid versus somebody that comes in erratic, irrational, and angry like Chris LeRusso is right now.
See, what one man would call erratic and irrational and angry, another man would call just aware of his strengths, aware of what he deserves. He's the heir apparent for a reason. And he made a good point. Chris LeRusso said that he should be the rightful PCW champion, just given to him, and I happen to agree.
Okay, but why does he deserve the title more than anybody else that we've seen so far today, or will see later, or, hey, Jackson Stone for that matter?
Well, Jackson Stone hasn't proven himself here in PCW. Chris LeRusso has. He's been put in 4 corner matches, 6 corner matches, or an octagonal match.
We do not have that many corners.
Well, I'm sure if we did, Chris LeRusso would be put in one of them. And nobody puts LeRusso in a corner.
Well, LeRusso's being backed into a corner now, courtesy of Jackson Stone. He's far out of the ring at this point.
And Jackson Stone, you mentioned earlier about the
oh my, look at that look. Like he just saw a ghost. Chris LeRusso grabbed by the hair, and Jackson Stone showing that power and that ferocity in the eyes as well.
I was going to say getting himself centered, but showing a vicious side. You know, that's dangerous for a guy like Jackson Stone. A guy that can center himself and really get laser focused at that size and that striking ability.
Crowd chanting Shogun along with Jackson Stone, who charges in with a splash. LeRusso gets a step ahead, and LeRusso, let's not undersell or shortchange the martial arts background of LeRusso as well. He's trained in numerous fighting styles, but he may need all of them to survive Jackson Stone. Look at this. Jackson makes it effortless.
Well, that may have been crouching LeRusso flipping backdrop right there by Jackson Stone.
If you're Chris LeRusso, what do you do? How do you beat Jackson Stone?
Well, I think you got to fall back on your martial arts talent. You know, the martial arts is one of the ways that shows you leverage on an opponent of any size, any shape, any discipline, as we just saw right there.
LeRusso caught Jackson with a knee right between the eyes to get out of that suplex. Then a chop block, low drop kick as well. LeRusso stringing some maneuvers together, and that's Jackson Stone dazed and off his feet, albeit if only for just a moment. And I'll give LeRusso credit. He's stepping into battle here. He's going all out here against Jackson Stone, trying to get this guy off his feet. But again, for LeRusso to say that, oh, you don't need to have a title tournament. You don't need to have any type of matches at all. Wins and losses don't matter. I just need to be the champion because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah? What's your point?
Well, I think the past few minutes have poked a few holes in that strategy, even though LeRusso has the upper hand right now. What about the tantrum LeRusso threw after that four-way matchup a couple of months ago?
It wasn't a tantrum. He was in there with a guy with a soccer ball, for crying out loud.
He was manhandling the ring announcer? What do you call that?
Well, he's lucky. Well, I mean, Nick Little probably deserved it. He probably said something wrong. And besides, if you punch him in the face, that means there's another job and a payday for me. So, you know, Chris LeRusso doing the smart thing, taking Jackson Stone down to size. That's what you do with a redwood. You take the big redwood down, and it can't hurt you. It can't do anything. It's not as intimidating at that point.
Stone's got at least a 100-pound weight advantage on LeRusso.
And that's what Jackson Stone has to do. He has to use that to his advantage.
Well, I mean, it's tough to use that weight, to your point, when you can't balance yourself properly. That thigh muscle's been knotted up or that knee's been taken out, and Jackson can't put the weight on it he needs to. That negates a lot of that power, but man, Jackson's still hurling LeRusso into the corner.
Like a great man once said, he needs to kick his leg right out of his leg.
Oh, and nobody there in the corner. And he got an awkward landing for really all of Jackson, including the knee.
Joe, you know what time it is? It's time to go to school.
Well, is it?
Well, Jackson Stone.
Who's going to school? Who's taking who to school, by the way?
Well, Jackson Stone tried to fight it off, but he's not going to be able to fight it
See,
off.
now LeRusso tried to get cocky, tried to compare himself to arguably the greatest of all time. Then he realized he had two tree branches to try to tie together, and it didn't look so. It wasn't quite as easy as it looks as Jackson gets the shoulder up. As LeRusso, once again, having to work his butt off to get an opportunity here, even though he thinks it just be handed to him.
You know, if I were on the championship
2 count.
committee-
Oh, LeRusso got goozled.
Well, that's one way to get out of a figure four.
All right, so we're going to crown a champion in early 2017. What would you do to crown that champion?
Well, I'd probably give it to LeRusso.
On what grounds?
Well, on the grounds.
Ouch!
Well, on the grounds of his greatness.
Head and leg trap suplex by Jackson.
On the defensive right now.
Oh.
You know, on top of that, if there was somebody that were willing to make a point, be it physically or financially, you know, they could slip into that spot as well. But I think you've got to take...
God! German release suplex. LeRusso landed hard on the shoulder.
I think you got to take the best athletes, the most impressive win-loss record certainly into account as well.
And right now, one would debate if Chris LeRusso would fit that mold.
Well, that's when you look at somebody's caliber of an athlete that he is and maybe reach out to somebody like me, and I can definitely give you a final thought on that.
So basically just bend and change the rules until Chris LeRusso's number one.
Wow, Joe, you're making me sound like I'm being dishonest.
This is the professional wrestling version of gerrymandering right now, thanks to BC Steel as LeRusso connects with a thrust kick.
I think gerrymandering taught me 8th grade science, so very, very wise man. Actually, it was political science that he taught me.
You called your teacher Jerry? Now Jackson Stone with a full Nelson. Oh gosh, LeRusso. Shades of the Warlord by Jackson Stone. LeRusso frenetically getting to the rope, but look at this now.
And that was
the mule
actually,
kick.
No, that was actually a karate savate kick to to the northern groinal region.
The northern groin. Where's LeRusso going?
That's gerrymandering taught me that.
He just stole our timekeeper's chair.
Well, that guy needs to stand anyway. And
This will be a disqualification if LeRusso does this, and he doesn't give a damn anymore. LeRusso just got himself intentionally disqualified because he gave up. He tried all match to figure out Jackson Stone, and that chair didn't do it either. And look at LeRusso's reaction as Jackson Stone is still standing, and that's the guy you want to be handed a championship?
As a result of the disqualification, Jackson Stone.
Jackson Stone is victorious. Now LeRusso again comes in with this blasé attitude, thinks he's going to walk and coast through everybody, and again he winds up eating crow. Justify that. Explain that to me.
well, you see, sometimes when you're in there with an athlete, Chris LeRusso willing to take the loser's share of the purse, willing to take an L by disqualification to save himself for another day. That's what I think Chris LeRusso was thinking.
He was thinking, oh crap, every plan I've attempted has failed miserably. I can't stop Jackson Stone. I need to get out of here. But Jackson Stone is victorious in his debut. Maybe we should look at Jackson Stone as a potential competitor to contend for the PCW Championship. What do you think about that?
Well, if that's what PCW desires, then maybe that's what PCW should do. I'd like to get a personal one-on-one before I can make a final decision on that, though.